You are listening to the Nightly News Podcast, the voice of the Knights.
Welcome, everybody, to the Nightly News Podcast. This is Professor Paul Miller, and I'm so honored to be joined by, and I want to get this right, the public education advocate for the domestic violence services of Cumberland and Perry County, Anna Nasser. Anna, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for saying all the words. It's certainly a long title.
Well, it's certainly my pleasure and our pleasure to have you, and I also want to introduce, and this is the same way that she will be introduced on every podcast moving forward, as well as when I see her in the hall or see her at the baseball game, Nightly News Hall of Famer Abby Bresky, and of course, also one of our esteemed student services workers who puts together all the programming that we have here at Central Penn College. So obviously, you're much more than a Hall of Famer, but you know, you're a Hall of Famer and I am not, Abby, so congratulations, Abby Bresky.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to learn all of the different things that Anna has to offer for our students.
Well, that's awesome, and I'm so happy to have both of you here today. So we're going to talk about a lot of different things. We're recording this after our club fair here at Central Penn, and one of the things that I want to make sure that we talk about is, number one, Anna, how we got together with you and how you are here representing not only your organization but the college in a general sense. So let's just start there. How did you become a part of what we're doing here on campus?
Yeah, so I work for an organization that provides services to survivors of domestic violence in Cumberland and Perry counties. And with the location of Central Penn and my being the advocate that covers education in Cumberland County, I kind of just slid right in here, and I do a lot of educational programming and work to make sure that the students are aware of the resource on this campus.
Well, and one of the things, too, that, while we still have a couple of days left in April, I did want to point out that April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. And so that's part of, your collaboration with us, not only all year round, but especially during the month of April. So share with us a little bit about how your Aprils are maybe a little bit different than the rest of the year because of the importance of Sexual Assault Awareness Month.
Yeah, we see a lot of overlap within sexual assault and domestic violence. There's kind of this misinformation and idea around sexual assaults being frequently done by random strangers, right? But we do see statistically that a lot of these assaults occur and are being done by intimate partners, be they past intimate partners or present intimate partners. So for us as a service agency that helps folks experiencing DV, we also end up helping a lot of folks who have experienced sexual violence or sexual assault by their intimate partners. So for us, a lot of this month is that educational programming, supporting campus events because of how frequently that occurs on college campuses, and just kind of getting out there and making sure people realize there is that overlap.
And Abby, as Anna just mentioned, part of what her position is, working with the colleges in terms of the programming that is going on campus. So again, I know that we're kind of speaking in the past tense here, but did you want to just share a little bit of sort of reflection about what the Sexual Assault Awareness Month has meant to the Central Penn College campus over the years?
So through my journey here at Central Penn as a student and now as a staff member, I've learned a lot of what different organizations and things they are partnering with us throughout this month, and people like Anna that come and educate us, and we learn all the things that sometimes can be hard to talk about. For this year, I focused on the Clothesline campaign, where students can come and write on a t-shirt what consent means to them and how we can raise awareness so people are more likely to speak up and advocate for themselves.
Yeah, and that's also something that, because you are one of the folks who's putting on these events here, it is, and obviously, this is a very difficult subject to talk about. Have you found in your experiences that students have also sort of shared that it is difficult to talk about, or have you found that students have been a little bit more open in terms of their willingness to speak about these types of things?
I think it depends on the person. I think a lot, you have like more extroverted people or students who are more willing to listen in, but sometimes the more quiet individuals, it's a harder subject because it's one of those subjects a lot of people may not want to touch because it is such a sensitive subject and it can be such a hard subject. I know as like an empath, like this is like very difficult for me just because you want to help everybody and you want to save everybody. But unfortunately, we can do our best to help them, after this happens to them and try to prevent it as much as possible. But
yeah, and I just want to give a little bit of background in sort of my area here. While I can't say that I've had a lot of experience with this, I have had the fortune of being the producer for the Randy's House of Angels podcast called Recovery, Healing, Outreach, and Awareness. And we are going to be starting our 4th season here in 2026. So I've had the opportunity to be in the room when so the podcast has different folks on from different elements of this particular discussion, and so I've had the opportunity to hear just some of the most powerful stories that you could ever hear, and it is unbelievably moving. So I do have some experience with this. Of course, if you want to check any of those podcasts out from our last 3 seasons, you can go to randysHouseofAngels.org/podcast, and you can get to hear me in sort of a different light. But for me, sort of as an outsider looking in, it is so unbelievably moving, heartbreaking, touching, all at the same time. Like it's so hard to hear people's stories, but at the same time, it also shines a light on those stories in an educational perspective that also illustrates these folks' resilience to battle through these hardships. Anna, one of the toughest things about this has to be the severity of some of the stories that you hear. What impact does that have on you as a person, just stepping outside of your job?
Yeah, so it's definitely not an easy position to hold, right? We, as advocates, are also in charge of fielding hotline calls. We regularly interact with folks who are in that emergency shelter. And I think I like the word that you used before, the resilience, because I think it's really important we focus on that. There's a lot of shame and a lot of stigma that kind of falls on people when they experience this. And for me, focusing on the resilience and focusing on the fact that healing is possible is really important. There's actually something called secondary traumatic stress and vicarious trauma that a lot of folks in healing professions are impacted by, because it's really hard to hear these traumatic stories and be the support system for those individuals who have experienced that. And be strong
while you're listening to it, because it's not really going to help somebody if you are emotionally taken by the story. It's so hard not to, but at the same time, to be that support system, you have to, in a sense, be solid and be that rock. And then when you kind of get out of that situation, you almost can't help but think about it.
It's hard to separate, and I like the focus on being strong and being a strong face there is really important, because and this goes for anyone, right? If people are coming to you, talking to you about domestic violence, talking to you about sexual assault, and you're reacting in horror, or you're gasping, or you're kind of doing the pity thing, right? Like, oh, poor you, I'm so sorry this happened to you. And you're not focusing on empathy and focusing on being that strong support system, that support isn't going to be as impactful as it could be.
Or could have detrimental impact.
Absolutely.
Not only just not even being as supportive as it needs to be, it could also have the reverse effect.
Absolutely. Yeah. We talk about that pretty frequently too, that re-traumatization, where if you're disclosing something that's happened to you and the person you're talking to isn't ready to have that conversation and they react in a pretty negative manner, that's going to be really hard for you to talk to other people about.
It has to be crucial, because these people that experience these traumatic things are already probably hesitant to come and ask for help. So as a person in your position, I'm sure that's even more pressure on you to be that person that is an open door and has that support ready for them, but also holding back that you are human listening to these traumatic stories. So I can only imagine the pressure of answering the phone or listening to these situations.
Abby, without going into any specific details, one of the things that you, I'm assuming, have seen in your first few months of being here at Central Penn is that a lot of the students do come to you for advice, or maybe come to you in a circumstance of something horrible that happened to them, because now you are in a position, I don't want to say of authority.
Right.
I mean, you are,
More of like a support.
That's what I was going to say, is that you are sort of that intermediary between the institution and the students in terms of the way that you and the relationships that you've built with these students. Have you had folks come to you with maybe not exactly what we're talking about here, but still serious matters that they've come to you? And is that maybe part of your job that you maybe weren't anticipating?
I mean, there's definitely, my door is wide open, and a lot of the students have learned that. I have the snacks and I have the water, and I'll always be your cheerleader throughout your time here on campus. And even after, I'm always going to check in. But you definitely hear all of the stories. Everybody comes from a different background, different experiences, different lived experiences, different traumatic events possibly. But learning how to empower them through those stories that they're telling you, it's achieving those small things in life. Because some people they'll come to me, oh, I'm only doing this, or I'm only doing that. Well, you're doing it. Like, you're getting out of bed in the morning and you have that purpose and you have that goal and you know what you want to do and you're sticking to it. So whether there's bumps in the road or there's people who maybe say something or anything that you feel like is getting in your way, you have that power, and I will empower you to look past that and to use it to strengthen you for the future.
I'm going to guess that wasn't in a job description.
No.
That's where I was going with this, because when you stepped into this position, you're like, well, I'm going to be doing events. I'm going to be being a success coach. Certainly not being a counselor is most certainly not as part of the job description, but I give you a ton of credit. Well, Anna, I want to talk a little bit about something that you'd brought up in our pre-show meeting, something called Denim Day. I understand that is the day that this podcast will be released, but just in a general sense, can you tell us a little bit more about what Denim Day is and about like its significance as part of everything that you do?
Yeah. So Denim Day is something that started after a sexual assault case that was tried in Italy, I believe in the 1990s, where the judge and the jury found that because the survivor that was assaulted was wearing tight denim jeans, they had given consent to the individual who sexually assaulted them. So there's a day, and it's at the end of April, every April for Sexual Assault Awareness Month, where everybody's asked to wear denim. So a lot of people, I don't know if anyone's heard the Canadian tuxedo kind of thing, but that is kind of the standard outfit for a Denim Day. And it's to show that clothing, whatever you're wearing, where you were, what you were doing, X, Y, and Z doesn't impact consent. Ultimately, the act of sexual violence is in the hands of the person who committed it.
And how... maybe celebrate is not the correct word, but how do you observe Denim Day just as not only as part of your job, but just as a human being?
Yeah,
other than dressing in denim, of course.
Denim is the big part of it, and it's also a day where I think we're kind of sailing out of the end of April. And for me, we're dedicating this month to thinking about sexual assault and sexual violence, right? But there are people who in our communities don't just think about it for a whole month. They think about it every day. It's something that impacts people far beyond one singular instance where that occurs or multiple instances where that occurs. It's something that can impact individuals for their whole lives. So I think that a lot of the day that we wear the denim and the why we wear denim stuff is important, but I also think that it being at the end of the month is really important because it's showing that this is something we're going to continue to think about. It's something we're going to continue to fight against, and it's something we're going to continue to spread awareness on.
So part of sort of our partnership, and you'd mentioned this earlier, is offering, and we can certainly talk about what services your organization offers, but in terms of a campus partnership, tell me a little bit more about just in a year, not necessarily just in April, because obviously we're coming to the end of April here, but in a year, what are some of the other things and some of the other interactions that you have with the college community, and maybe how can people at our college get a little bit more involved with what you're doing? Yeah.
So I am your campus advocate. So pretty much just blanket statement, if you want me to come talk and come educate at pretty much any point, I will come and do it. But as things go for this year, that's looked like tabling at campus events. That's why I was just at the Back to Class Blast, having a table out there. That's looked like Abby and I hosting Healthy Relationship Bingo a month back or so about that. I don't know. Time passes fast.
It does.
It sure does.
It doesn't stop.
It sure doesn't. And that also looks like just making sure that students can recognize me as a friendly face and know that if something's going on, they can reach out. And if they don't necessarily get me, they will get someone who has the same training as me and the same capability to support and assist.
Well, let me kind of start back at the beginning here. Just for you, Anna, what was it about this organization or this line of work that spoke to you?
Yeah, absolutely. For me, a lot of us come to this line of work because we've had personal experiences with that. And unfortunately for me, I have had a personal experience, and that is largely what has driven me to do this work. I got fairly involved with organizing and working on education in college as it surrounds sexual violence and domestic violence. And as I was starting my job search after college, I was really happy to know that they were hiring because it's something that I wanted to continue working on. And it's a field that I know I can impact people in. And that's kind of why I got kind of pulled over to domestic violence of Cumberland and Perry. And largely, I think a lot of people have similar stories to that. There are people who have had personal experience, have healed, and are continuing to heal and choose to assist others after.
I can share this, and I've shared this on the Randy's House of Angels podcast. I have never experienced it personally, other than I witnessed it in my family situation when I was younger. And ever since then, it has had a dramatic impact on me. And honestly, that's why I got involved with Randy's House of Angels. So in that respect, I think, and everyone that is a part of this in some way has had some type of either direct or adjacent experience, whether it was themselves personally or whether it was a family member or a close friend, brings people together because they understand how impactful in a negative way that this can be, but yet how much of a help that people in your position can actually be as an advocate or a support system for people who are experiencing this. And in a way, at least in a professional sense, I think Abby and I would also concur with you that part of the reason that we both got into the industry that we are is because we want to help people.
Yeah.
And I think I wish if more people would maybe approach their careers that way, maybe the world would be a little bit better of a place. But I also think that is just unbelievably fantastic that you are willing to expose yourself and to talk about these things in such a frank way, not only about how and why you got into this, but how you are able to help the people who are struggling with this. Because it's one thing I've learned from being the producer of the podcast is that so many people either don't know where to turn, don't know what supports are there for them, or are ashamed of what has happened to them and don't know where to turn. And that's why it was so important for me to have you on. And Abby, I give you tons of credit for your collaboration with Anna and the group, because the more and more we can get the word out there about the support systems that are there, hopefully the less of a stigma it is on the victims of domestic violence and sexual assault.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Yeah. And I think I like that you talked about the shame that comes with it, because that's like a really, really large barrier to people feeling that they can get help. And in this state, we see that 1 in 4 women and 1 in 4 men, and about over 50% of the LGBTQ population will have an experience with domestic violence.
That's incredible.
Yeah. And I think specifically with that statistic, we like to say that everyone knows someone. Like you said before, it's incredibly likely that someone in your life, if not you, have experienced or know someone who has experienced domestic violence. And for me, the shame that comes with domestic violence and the fact that so many people have experienced it, there's that kind of cognitive dissonance there. And that's a large portion of why go out and talk to people as well, because if we're having these conversations, if we're speaking to people, if we're just letting them know that this isn't okay and there's people out there who can help if you do need it, we're kind of fighting back against that shame a little bit.
Abby, before we get out of here, I just want to come back to you quickly. What in your experience, what has been the impact on the programming that has, not only because this is sort of your first run through,
right.
but even as a student, you were really involved in this as well. Tell me a little bit more about what the impact has been with the students here on campus.
I think, at least personally, I think through my position now, I just learn a lot about different things that either happen to people. I've been learning a lot about different life experiences, because we all come from a different background, and I was fortunate enough to not experience this in my life, but it's helped me open my eyes to see the different resources that I want our students to have and I want them to know about, so they aren't alone. A big thing is I've learned, someone told me a long time ago, is that you're going to meet people and you're only going to know one page in their book. So if you only look at that one page and judge them off of that, then you're not looking at their whole story, and that's not fair. So I think for those people that come and ask for help, it's one page in your book, and it might be a really heavy page, but it's a page and it's worth looking back on and respecting what you've been through and using it to empower you for the future.
And it's discussions like that, which is why you're a Nightly News Hall of Famer. All right. Well, I just want to thank Anna for being on. Of course, you're always welcome, Abby, and you have an open invitation. But Anna, I want to just thank you not only for sharing and being on the show, but being an advocate to people that are experiencing these things and being open and being honest and laying it all out on the table, but also, just having the passion for and compassion for people in doing this job, because as we mentioned earlier, I know that this is not an easy job to do, but it's one that you value because you know that you are helping people to better their situations, to improve their life, or to even just deal with some of the mental health concerns that also almost undoubtedly accompany these situations. So, and I just want to thank you so much for not only taking the time, but for being our advocate here at Central Penn College. And certainly, I'd love for you to take the opportunity to share anything you'd like about what you do, your organization, or how anyone can contact you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I do really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
I'm happy to be on campus whenever I am on campus. Just a brief rundown so that students do know what's out there if they do end up needing help. I want everyone to know that we have a 24-hour hotline that you can also text. I can rattle off the numbers if you wish. It is 1-800-852-2102. And someone who is trained and ready to help will answer that phone. From there, we have a whole variety of services. So if someone needs emergency shelter, assistance with getting a legal protection order, if someone's looking for free counseling, if someone's looking for accompaniment, be that to medical appointments or court appointments, that's something we can always do. And all of those services are entirely free, and they're also all confidential, with the one caveat being that we are mandated child abuse reporters. So if someone's coming to you and they're going through something and you don't know where to send them, there is a high chance you can send them to us. And if we can't help, we will find someone who can.
Well, Anna, again, thank you so much for your time today. I'm just so happy that we were able to have you on. And, of course, it's one of those things, even though April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month, it's certainly not something that should only be discussed in April, and it's something that should be thought about year-round. And I just appreciate everything that you do. And thank you so much for joining us from the Domestic Violence Services of Cumberland and Perry Counties.
Thank you.
And Hall of Famer, Abby, it's always such a pleasure to have you on. This podcast kind of showed a little bit different of a side of not only just you, Abby, but your position here.
Yeah.
And that a lot of our student services folks do things that are a little bit outside of their job description, but that's also what makes the job so rewarding. So, but Abby, as always, it's such a pleasure to have you on, and I'm so glad that you're part of our Central Penn family.
I love
Not
it.
that you wouldn't have been anyway.
I know.
But
I love giving the support, and I love being a listening ear. So anybody needs me, I'm in the underground. but thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. All right, well, that's going to do it for this episode of the Nightly News Podcast. I would like to thank Nightly News Hall of Famer Abby Bresky and the Public Education Advocate for the Domestic Violence Services of Cumberland and Perry Counties Anna Nasser for joining us today. But that's going to do it for this episode of the Nightly News Podcast. We'll see you again next time.
I'm Dylan Bowman, former president of the Nightly News, and you're listening to the Nightly News Podcast.
Welcome, everybody, to the Nightly News Podcast. This is Professor Paul Miller, and I am so honored to be joined by some people from my favorite organization on campus. I know we're not supposed to have favorites, but you are one of my favorites. So let's welcome Cathy Yohe from the West Shore Connect program. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, Dr. Miller. Thank you for having us.
Well, it is my absolute pleasure. We've been talking about doing this for quite some time, and I wanted to have you guys on to talk a little bit more about what you do, how you got involved with the program, and some of the other really cool things that you have going on, like recruiting mentors, how the West Shore Connect students have been involved with the Nightly News over the years. So we're really looking forward to chatting with you a little bit more about that. Also being joined by now podcast veteran, Donnell Loud. Donnell is in his final term here when we're recording this, and this is an opportunity for Donnell to sit in on a podcast, but he's also going to bring some really important discussions about his experience with the West Shore Connect program during his time here. So welcome back to the show, Donnell.
Thank you.
Also welcoming Noah Berman. Noah is part of our Nightly News Media Club and is working on a really cool story that we're talking about that should be out by now, by the time you're hearing this. So Noah, it's been a pleasure to get to work with you as part of the Nightly News, but thanks for being on the podcast.
Hey, thank you, man.
It's my absolute pleasure, and we'll have a chance to speak with everybody here in just a few minutes. So I wanted to start off, Cathy. People who have known about the West Shore Connect program for quite some time remember Sherry Brinzier.
Mm-hmm.
Sherry is actually somebody who I've become friends with. We get to see each other every once in a while. And, of course, we're very happy for her. She's since moved on to a new position, which has allowed you to come in.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to kind of just give a little bit of a brief history of the West Shore Connect program. We have had the opportunity with the Nightly News to work with West Shore Connect ever since the first sort of pilot program came here. And it is a program for individuals with special needs, and but what is most important about this gives these individuals an opportunity to network with college-aged peers. And I want you to just talk with me about that, about why this particular program is so important for these people involved, and why this is such an important initiative from Central Penn College.
Sure. So the students that we have attending West Shore Connect have maxed out everything they could at either Cedar Cliff High School or Redland High School, or in the past, we've had students from other high schools as well. So they've completed all of their credits. They've maybe earned a VOTEX certification, but they're not quite ready for that next step. So they are interviewed and decide that they would like to come to West Shore Connect. It's really wonderful for them to be engaged here with same-age peers. That's such an important piece for their continued growth and transition. So they come here and they participate in a lot of different activities. Anything that the college has to offer, our kids have been welcomed into, even the after-school activities, as long as they have transportation. So our students audit college classes here. We have a student who will be dual enrolled next semester, which I'm super excited
That's
for.
That's amazing. And I believe that's the first student who's going to be in that capacity, right?
It is. I'm really, really excited for him. And he'll be returning next year and auditing more college classes in an attempt to get his gen eds out of the way before he goes on to what his passion would be art school. So we'll see. That's really exciting for us. And then I have another student contemplating the same path, and they're both very capable young men. So I'm looking forward to providing support so that they can make that step. Central Penn gives us the opportunity to participate in a lot of volunteer activities. The convenience of the location here, both to the city and to local shopping areas, gives us the opportunity to practice travel training and take field trips and do leisure activities and go grocery shopping and all of these important life skills with our students.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's so important to talk about here is that it's not just so much about the classes. It is that, and that is important that the students are coming in and auditing classes, of which all of the students do to different and varying degrees.
Right.
But what it's also about is the same age, college age peer situation. And so I want to kind of go back in the time machine and tell you how I got involved with working with West Shore Connect. So my son is on the autism spectrum, and he was able to, through his school district, go to school until he was 21.
Right.
In fairness, I don't know that he necessarily would have been a good fit for this program, to be honest. However, by the time he was 20 and 21 years of age, he was associating with people who were 14, 15 years old. So in terms of the age gap, there was still a pretty large age gap. So that was the thing that drew me to this, at least initially. Of course, once I got to know some of the early students, of course, Addie Makanovich, one of the people who was one of the pilot members of the West Shore Connect program, we bonded right away. So much so that Addie was an integral member of the Nightly News. He was wrote a cover story for a quarterly publication. And even after he graduated from the program, I still get to see Addie all the time because he participates in the Campillo Challenger Baseball League, of which I am the commissioner. So not only did we develop a mentorship type of relationship here, I still get to talk with him and work with him as part of our baseball, our senior league that Addie is a part of. So from the very beginning, I gravitated toward this program. Over the years, not only have a variety of West Shore Connect students been a part of the Nightly News, we also commissioned, as I'm sure you've seen, a really, really cool mini documentary about the program, which, from what I understand, you still use as a promotional tool even to this day. That was something, and then obviously being a part of that drew us even closer to the organization. So the Nightly News and the West Shore Connect program have a lot of intersection over the years, and that sort of brings us up to today and the growth that we've seen. So can you just talk to us a little bit about how this program has grown since those early days of Addie and Tyler being here, those, the first 2 or 3 students that we had, I want to say back in 2022?
Sure. I think this is our 5th year in existence, and looking forward, it will continue to grow exponentially. This year, we only have 8 students, which is very lovely for me because I get to know them all on a more personal level and get to work with them more individually. But it has grown, and we are the only program in Central PA area. The next closest one is at State College. So it's a very unique program. Our students are very lucky to have this opportunity. Yeah, I'd like to continue to see it grow more. I wish that we could have 2 suites and another teacher, but I'm maxed out at 10, and I think that's all that the district can do right now.
So, Noah, I want to bring you in here. This is your first year experiencing with West Shore Connect, yes?
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about your experience with the West Shore Connect program and what some of the most exciting and adventurous things that you've done this term are.
So, my experience with West Shore Connect is that, okay, I like it. I'm just going to start off right now. I think this is a great program for people who have autism like me or other mental disabilities. If I'm going to be honest, sometimes it is incredible. Sometimes I think it is one of the best, not one of the best, but an incredibly nice thing to have. It can allow me to sort of get my life a bit more in focus.
Well, let's talk about that for a minute. You talked about getting your life in order. So one of the things I wanted to talk about here real quick, and then we'll come back to you and we'll get to chime in. So again, it's not just a matter of going to classes. That's a very important part of it, but you're also doing a variety of other things. You're doing volunteer work. You're doing travel training that you mentioned to help these individuals transition from sort of that high school step to what's next. So I want to first talk about the travel training. Tell me a little bit more about some of the things you do with the travel training, and then we could talk a little bit more about the volunteer work.
Sure. So we go to Strawberry Square and practice ordering lunch, and then tour the Capitol and other areas, within time allotment. The bus narrows us down a little bit. We've also gone to the State Museum to practice some leisure activity, and we've gone to the Pennsylvania Farm Show as well. We also go to the Giant with a meal plan and practice budgeting, and we've done scavenger hunts there, and as well as walk up to the Summerdale Plaza and do scavenger hunts so the kids know what's in the area. And then you said about the volunteer.
Yeah, we'll come right back. I want to talk about this travel training with Noah here. So tell me a little bit more about the experiences that you really appreciated getting to go on some of these field trips, but also not just about it being a field trip. You're actually learning things you're going to be able to apply to your future life.
So travel training is actually kind of weird for me because I kind of experienced half of it, but didn't experience the other half because I am, my body is a very fickle thing. Sometimes it's like right as rain, I could go. Other times, I am a sick Victorian child, which means I got no time left.
That's an interesting way to look at it.
So yeah, like the museum, I wanted to go, but on that day, I had some issues, so I was forced home.
Well, let's highlight the things that you actually did get to do.
Oh yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I've just been doing a lot of yammering, not explaining. Sorry. So going to like Strawberry Square, it was a fun experience. I've actually gone on that like sort of field trip or like job experience thing multiple times before with like sort of like my last year of high school, and I think this is like my third time going there, and it's still like it's a pretty nice place overall. I overall think that like Strawberry Square is like a really interesting experience to go through. Is like sort of I'm sorry, I'm blanking on words here.
It's okay. Well, I do want to come back to the discussion about the volunteer work, because one of the biggest things that West Shore Connect is doing is doing a variety of things around campus. So I'm just going to list off a few of the things that you've talked about doing. Cleaning the dining hall, cleaning the underground, organizing the food pantry, helping to break down the conference center, putting flyers around campus. That's not even taking into consideration how several of the West Shore Connect students have positions on campus. I know one of your students is one of the library aides. I mean, talk about how, you've also done volunteer work with Caitlin Smiles and New Hope Ministries. Tell me a little bit about why this volunteer work is such a crucial component to what you're doing with West Shore Connect.
So the jobs that we do on campus give the kids an idea of other jobs they could do in the community, and they can transfer those skills that they're learning here into the community and potential jobs, or even just how to take care of your home, right? Or help mom and dad with a big birthday party or something coming up for grandma. And then the opportunities with Caitlin Smiles and New Hope Ministries, it's good to give back. And the kids, I think it's important for them to realize that even though they might have a disability or they might have learning challenges that make things difficult at times, they still are very capable humans who have a lot to give to everybody else.
There's no question, and that's one of the things that I talk with my students about all the time, about how important it is to volunteer and give back to the community. Now, before we move on, I want to come to you, because you have had the opportunity to interact in a variety of ways with the West Shore Connect program. So just tell me a little bit more about your experience and your time here with the West Shore Connect students. What are some of the interactions that you have with them, and why do you think that they help our campus really elevate because of their presence?
My time here and my experiences with them is like whenever I come out my door and get ready for class, I always say hi to them. They always uplift me, bring me spirit.
In what way, though? I mean, you're saying that it's uplifting, and I agree with you 100%, but talk to me about your own personal experience.
My personal experience, when I met them, and I had one of them in my class, Addy, he was a bright young man, always so appreciative and ready to work and get everything done. My experience with these guys, it's like they're awesome, cool, funny, and the sweetest thing in the world. And I feel as though, like with them, it brings my heart to warm, and I know I'm going to miss these guys a lot, seeing them around, saying hi to them, seeing them in the student lounge, helping, and just everything with them.
I would also point out something, and I mean this when I say this. I'm speaking for my son here. One of the biggest challenges that he has is making friends.
Right.
And I think that that's something that's relatively common for individuals with special needs. I don't think you understand how important you are to them. For every way they're important to you, you are important to them too, because you're a peer and you're a popular kid around campus, Danelle. I mean, you're one of the stars on the basketball team. It just goes to show you that the small interactions that you have with people really can make a significant difference, not only in your life, but their lives too. Tell me a little bit, Noah, about your experiences with people around campus. Is it fun to get to meet people and have friends here on campus that are a little bit different than friends you've had in the past?
Oh yeah. Meeting kids around campus, or like adults around campus, they are really nice people. But for Nightly News, I work with a lot of kids there, and they are all like really, really swell people, honestly. Like whenever I like have like an interjection or like something to add, they like go like, oh yeah, I understand, or like, yeah, that's cool, we could do that. It's really nice to hear. Also working with my fellow classmates, they are very much approachable. The teachers are insanely nice, man. They are wonderful. The two I've had right now, wonderful people. Whenever I had like a bit of an issue, they always were like, yeah, you could do that, and yeah, they really did help out a lot. They really did help out a lot.
Well, I want to talk to you just a little bit about the Nightly News. One of the things that ever since West Shore Connect came to this campus that we have prided ourselves upon is trying to get as many members from the West Shore Connect program to be involved with what we do. So I just want to point out that I greatly appreciate your gentle nudge to these students to get involved, because it's not even just about written stuff. Yes, we're working with Noah right now on getting his written piece up, but it's also about more than that. We do fundraising. We're in fact right in the middle of planning a huge fundraising event here on campus in the spring. So just what they're bringing to the table is different and unique, and we're just so glad that they can feel like they're a part of something above and beyond their own organization and the classes that they're in. So just tell me any feedback that you've heard from them as far as their involvement with the Nightly News.
I mean, I think the kids are really grateful for the opportunity. Noah has been gung-ho all year, as you can tell, especially for the podcast piece, because he has that great voice.
Yes,
and he
absolutely.
loves speaking.
My voice is quite fantastic. Thank you for finally recognizing it.
And he has a lot of performance skills. And then my other student who has joined, Jacob, who couldn't be with us today, he's a reluctant student, and to have him writing excitedly has been really good for my teacher heart. We have some editing to do, but he's learning in the process, and he feels included.
And that's part of what this is,
Absolutely.
though. And that's one of the things we've always embraced. Anybody who wants to get involved with this, because it is a learning process. When you're writing for news, it's very different, especially if you're not in communications. And we do have a lot of students outside communications that are in our area. So I just want to tell you how much we appreciate that. Ever since Addie, all the way to now, we've had a tradition of having West Shore Connect students as part of the Nightly News, and we greatly appreciate that.
Well, I love how you've continued to embrace Elijah, even though he had to move and could not be a part of our program any
I just
longer.
talked to him yesterday.
That's awesome.
So one of the things that he asked me, and I've had alumni ask this before, is, hey, after I graduate, would I still be able to write? And I said, listen, you're a part of the Nightly News for as long as you want to be. If you want to continue writing and have your stuff published, we're going to do that. He actually just turned in a story recently about individuals from Pennsylvania and how they performed in the Olympics.
Nice.
So he was very interested in the Olympics. He's also very interested in the Paralympic Games as well.
Nice.
So he's going to be doing some stories about that, so we should see them up on the Nightly News here very shortly.
Oh, I can't wait to read them.
Elijah Hoon, I'll tell you, he did some of the coolest articles. He chronicled some of the statues and memorials around campus. He did a 3-part series, and honestly, and believe me when I say this, at the end of every year we submit our best annual articles across every person who wrote an article. We pick like the 10 best ones, and we submit them to the Pennsylvania News Media Association Awards. We have actually won 6. And we compete with students who have up to 10,000 students. We have we have less than 1,000.
Right.
So we submitted Elijah's articles this year. So to us, they fell certainly within the top 10 articles that we wrote all year.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So, and of course we do love Elijah. I do just want to talk about a couple of more things here, and then we'll go around to each person for sort of a closing thought. One of the things that's most important for you is to find mentors here on campus. Over the years, we have had, and especially Nightly News Hall of Famer Abby Bresky was one of the first mentors, and of course is still very involved with what you guys are doing. I know that you're going to be looking for mentors, not only just in this term, but really trying to gear up for fall. So if you're trying to just make a pitch to a student out there listening who might want to get involved in something like this, just share with them a little bit more information about how they might become a mentor.
Sure. They can just reach out to me. I'll be at the back to school blast. A lot of the kids already know who I am. They know me by name or know us to say hello like Donnell. All I'm asking for is maybe an hour of your time. We would love to have you come. Mondays are light for a lot of us, so that's an ideal day, but I understand a lot of the students here work. So really, whatever time you can give us on whatever day, we can make work. We'd love to have you come and get to hang out with the kids, play games, maybe go to the underground, take a walk, especially if somebody's having a tough day. Maybe they just need a same-age buddy to kind of bounce ideas off of, or help with classwork too, because let's be real, the college students here can understand some of the tech pieces a little better than we can, or they might have already had that class so they can give their own feedback and kind of tutor a little bit. But really, whatever capacity, I'm just looking for an hour a week. We only have one young lady this week, or a year, so I'd really love to have some male mentors moving forward, and next year we'll be heavy on males versus female students again. So I'd like to have a good mix of both. Fatima has been our steady Eddie for the last 2 years. She's wonderful. And I know I have some students who have been interested. I think they're just afraid to make that commitment. I'm really not asking for you to do more than you can.
Right.
And it's just a matter of communicating if something comes up during the week and you can't make it.
Noah, what's your thought about the mentors that you've gotten to know?
I've only really gotten to know Fatima for like the first half because the class I have, it's exactly same time she comes, and then so I can't really see her. But
right.
For what I have like had experience with her, she's a great person. She's genuinely like so like connective. Is that like a
Yeah, on the campus she is.
Yeah, really caring. It's always like whenever we played like Uno with her, it was a great time. Also, she actually recently like got a new job. Like she got off her old McDonald's job as someone who worked at Pizza Hut. Way to go, girl!
Did you want to add something here to know?
One thing I say, like, seeing these guys a lot, it really does warm my heart, and I would love to be their mentor. Just talk to them, ask them how their day been, whether they're having a tough day, they can always come talk to me. Whether I'm doing my internship out in the student lounge, they can always come down and talk to me. I'll be happy to give them advice, give them like whatever type of guidance they need in their life.
That's great. And
that would be awesome.
I really appreciate that. Well, I do want to make sure that everybody knows, and I will put your information along with this podcast, so if anybody is interested in becoming a mentor, but certainly, like to your point, certainly on the short term, you're willing to accept mentors, but I think definitely coming into the fall term, trying to restock those mentors. Again, it's excellent for your resume. It's excellent for your mental health and well-being, getting to know that you're actually helping people, make it here at Central Penn. So this is, and again, you can always talk to Abby Bresky. Abby would be happy to tell you about some of the variety of benefits for this. I just want to conclude by saying it's been my honor to get to work with these students, and it will continue to be my honor to get to work with these students moving forward. I appreciate you. I appreciate what you and your team do. We are better off as an institution since you guys have been here. You are showing people that even individuals with special needs still have the same social desires and needs as everyone else. But I also think that you've shown them an important level of diversity, that how important it is that we are familiar in working with people that are just different from us. And that's perfectly fine because we all need that. And again, the friendship component is such an important part of it. So there's really just absolutely no downsides here. Maybe the day-to-day gets frustrating and stressful here and there, but in terms of the totality of your program, I mean, it is 100% one of the best things that I've been a part of since I've been here, and I know that the school feels the same, so thank you.
Thank you. I feel very lucky. don't want to tell too many of my special ed colleagues at West Shore School District that I have the best gig in the district, but I really do. And the college has been so welcoming to me and to all of us. I know Sherry and Shannon kind of blazed the path for us, but I'm happy to pick up the torch and keep it going and growing.
And you're doing a great job with that.
Thank you.
And Danelle, thank you. I hope that maybe in your last few weeks here on campus, maybe you can be that mentor, and maybe we can talk about some ways you can get involved in a little bit more different ways.
Thank you so much.
Of course, my pleasure, and it's always a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you.
And Noah, what else is there to say? You continue to do amazing work with the Nightly News. We look forward to having you be a big part of what we're doing. You even got to do Christmas caroling with us.
Oh yeah, I did do that. Thanks, man. I just hope I don't sound too bad when like this gets published, because well, it's just like the voice actor effect. You call your lines, think you did good. You hear them back in. Oh God, I sound like that.
You're doing just fine. Tell me a little bit, though, just final thoughts about your experience with West Shore Connect and what it means to you.
It's kind of got me to, like, not necessarily fix my life, but, like, make it better. It's given me time to, like, fact that the moment as a normal student would graduate college, not college, but high school, it's immediately to college or to work. Just gives me a bit more breathing time to, like,
figure out what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think I'm going to start working next year, maybe as a power washer. That doesn't sound like a bad gig.
Well, listen, we are happy to have you here as long as you're going to keep coming. And Noah, we, again, just give you a ton of credit for everything you've done. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of the Nightly News Podcast. I want to thank everybody for being here. Kathy, especially you,
Thank
for
you.
everything that you've been doing. Danelle, it's been a wonder to get to work with you, and I appreciate your insights. And, of course, Noah, thank you for your work with the Nightly News.
Thank you.
All right. Well, hey, that's going to do it for this episode of the Nightly News Podcast. I want to thank Danelle Loud, Noah Berman, and Cathy Yohe for joining us here. But that's going to do it for this episode of the Nightly News Podcast. We'll see you again next time.